everybody. This is Carol Maletta. Welcome to the Parenting 411 podcast, where we share information parents need from sources they can trust. Hey, Mama, if you've been holding it together on the outside, but feeling spiritually drained on the inside, I want to invite you to something special. The Ministry of Mom Experience is happening May 2nd in Washington, D.C. It will be a faith-centered day to help you reset, breathe, and walk away with practical tools to parent with confidence and peace. You don't need more pressure. You need an anchor and a plan. Register now at ministryofmom.com. That's ministryofmom.com. It's so funny. Just last night, I was having a conversation with a group of ladies who are all moms and entrepreneurs, and we got into a discussion about what features make the perfect planner. And so whether it's electronic or old school like mine here, let's see, I don't think you can see it that well. But anyway, we were debating like what features are particularly useful to help you stay on track so you can check off all the boxes. What helps you remember where you're supposed to be, doing what, with whom, and when. And busy moms, we have a lot to think about. But what if the secret to doing it all really isn't about whether you have color coding in your calendar, but really deciding what actually matters and being brave enough to not do the rest. So on today's episode, we're going to be talking with Julie Cole, and she calls herself a recovered lawyer, and she's the mom of 6 and co-founder of Mabel's Labels, the basement startup that grew into a multi-million-dollar award-winning brand used by families around the world. And Julie has turned the chaos of raising a big family and building a business into a masterclass on just creating the life you want while managing the mother load. And she's just known for keeping it real about what it takes to juggle entrepreneurship, parenting, and a life that really feels like your own. So maybe you've got a business idea scribbled on the back of a grocery list, or you're just trying to make it through the day and on to bedtime without losing your keys or your cool. But if any of this sounds like you, don't go anywhere. We've got honest stories and practical strategies you can use right away. So welcome, Julie, for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I should mention, Carol, although I have 6 kids, I do have my babies one at a time, unlike some people I know.
Oh, oh my goodness. Yeah, I guess I cheated, huh? So now you've described yourself as a recovering lawyer. My husband sometimes says that he's a recovered attorney too. But talk about that and how you came to build this business, Mabel's Labels, that just scaled up and out into the $1 million stratosphere.
You bet. You bet. Well, I think, it's relatable to a lot of women who are in corporate. And that is, you start a family and you're like, maybe this isn't going to work so well. For me, it was kind of the two things. I started this with 3 other women, my sister and 2 of our friends from college. And we were young moms at the time, and we did notice a product missing from the market. So that was the first reason. We're all using masking tape and permanent marker, and there wasn't a really durable, personalized label out there. We were tired of losing the sippy cups and the bottles and all the things that the kids have, all the stuff you spend a lot of money on. So we're like, well, we don't want to lose the stuff, and there's nothing really out there. Interesting. So product idea. And then the second thing goes back to the recovered lawyer piece, and that being that my eldest child had just turned 3 and he received an autism diagnosis. And I didn't think the traditional workforce was going to suit my needs anymore. I wanted to be able to have the flexibility to, advocate for him. And honestly, he already had 2 younger siblings at that point. So things were getting a little crazy. And then, of course, I went on to have more and more and more. So, that was the kind of the combination of the things, like the product missing experiencing from the market and the need for a shift professionally. Now, I will say that I think, although I'm a recovered lawyer, and I'm glad to hear your husband has also joined the ranks, but I always think people have asked me many times, do you feel like, do you regret going to law school? Do you regret all of that? Because heck, it was hard. It was a lot of work and all that. But I think, whatever path we choose, whatever experiences we have, whatever education we get, we are going to use in whatever we do. So I always tell people, just don't regret, all the lessons you learn along the way, you will take with you and you will use them.
I totally agree with that because, I went to graduate business school as well. And when I first decided to stay home, and I went to a top business school, it was hard. And a lot of people on the outside were like, she went to school, wasted all that time, and, why is she staying home like I'm doing nothing? And, but I'm so thankful that my family understood.
Yes.
And, my husband, when I first decided to do that, which was also prompted by a diagnosis for one of our children with developmental delays, he said, I'm going to support you. We met in business school. He said, I know how hard you worked, so I'm not going to ask you to stay home if that's not what you want to do. If you want to do that, we're going to make it work. And so that was the conversation that we had. So I totally can relate to what you're saying there. And I wonder how soon after you came home was Mabel's born?
Right. So, Mabel's came around the time that my son was getting diagnosed
Okay.
because we were talking about this product missing, and then when Mac got his diagnosis, I said to the girls, "Look, we've had this idea, and now there's this change that I have to make. What do you think? Should we get going on this?" And everybody's like, "Yeah, let's take a crack at this." So everybody really had full-time jobs and small children. It was a gong show. I'm not going to lie. I mean,
Mhm.
as most people who are doing a side hustle can relate to, it's like you go to work all day, get the kids home, pick them up daycare, put them to bed. It was like having 1,000 jobs for most of the partners. And we started with just doing a lot of research and development because we had to find something that would be very durable. So for about a year, we did a lot of R&D, and we were testing different product. It was sitting in our dishwasher for a year, that sort of thing. And then when we finally found the product that we wanted and we knew would fulfill the market need, we launched. But you know what, Carol? This is 22 years ago, right? So this was a long time ago. And we're an e-commerce business, right?
Mhm.
So people were still getting used to putting the Visa card in the machine, and there was no social media. And, so our marketing was very sort of grassroots and word
Okay.
of mom and spreading the word that way. And luckily our product was one of those products that made sense.
Okay.
So I often talk about the challenge of bringing a new product to market, and that is having to educate the market that they need the product. But for a lot of moms, especially actually moms of multiples, because you have twice the stuff and things get
Mhm.
mixed up and lost. And so as soon as our product was kind of seen in the wild, it made sense, and people understood it and started ordering. But those
Mhm.
early marketing efforts were funny. They were like us sending mail letters to our friends saying, "We've got a website, buy our product," and that's how it all started, right?
Right. So would you say then it was sort of the actual mail campaign that probably helped you all turn this from a cute idea, something fun to
Right.
do, to a real sustainable business?
I think a couple of things were at play here. So, certainly just getting out there and doing some real grassroots like PR, and like we would, set up at shows and just, really just getting out there, right? So
Mhm.
that was one thing. We also made a really big effort to try and get ourselves some free press because
Okay.
remember, PR is like that's a testimonial, and we were in no position to afford, an ad in today's parent or parenting magazine. We were in a basement making labels, like we
Okay.
couldn't afford that sort of thing, right? And we were young parents, and we were paying for things like therapies, and and giving up things like lawyer salaries. So it was tough in those times. So it was that very grassroots mentality at first. And that was just hitting the pavement, spreading the word, asking our friends to spread the word, writing to to magazines saying you should feature this as a cool product. And that's exactly what happened. We ended up getting a few really nice little PR hits.
Okay.
And then we just saw the orders start coming in. And then, once our orders started coming in and then the labels were out in the wild, then people would see them out there and then it would create chatter like, what is that on your child's water bottle? Oh my goodness. And that goes to the dishwasher. I need that. What's the website? Because, moms, we talk about products, right? We talk about products.
Yes.
We talk about things we love. It's the whole she tells two friends and she tells two friends. And then it wasn't long before then social media hit and we adopted right away because that became a word of mouth vehicle for moms. Those early days.
Yes.
You remember the days like we were like the OG mom bloggers, right? Like back in the day. And then, we would get our product in the hands of the mom bloggers, then they would do a giveaway. And then because their communities trusted them. And we know that with moms, particularly, we don't want to buy from nameless, faceless brands. We like to connect to brands. We want to buy from somebody who's familiar.
Mm-hmm.
So connecting
Mm-hmm.
with bloggers and moms are owning like Facebook and that whole space. So that was a really great spot for us. And it really leveled the playing field too, because I mean, like I said, we couldn't afford to do an ad in
Mm-hmm.
Today's Parent, but I could sure tweet the editor at Today's Parent and message them about, our newest product. And you never know, it got in front of them, right? So it
Yeah.
did really level the playing field for small business at the time.
Mhm, mhm, and it's definitely something that's needed, I tell you, keeping up with kids stuff and I imagine grown-up stuff too.
Well, it's funny you say that because, like, certainly when we started, we were thinking babies and toddlers. And then as our kids grew, it's like, hold on, we need some more designs for the tweens because they have stuff. And so we like, we need to put some more like icons and motifs
Mhm,
together that suit them. And then we have kids who are teenagers and then going off to college. And now we've got, even for people like me and you, who we were the original customers, a lot of that our original customers are A, buying for grandkids,
ah,
and
okay.
B, buying for their parents who are going into residential care. So we have a lot
That
because
makes
the
sense.
seniors, yeah, the seniors like for their mobility devices, for their perfume, for their deodorant, for their eyeglass container, for their
Mhm,
teeth container, whatever, all of the stuff when they move into residential care, we find that they have not a lot of belongings. They've gotten rid of their stuff because they've done the big downsize. So their things are very precious to them, and they really, really do love to have them labeled just to make sure that they get back to their room. And their clothing, of course, our clothing
uh,
goes through
yep,
like very, industrial washing machines and
yep.
dryers and that sort of thing. So it's the durability that's been the secret sauce over these years, and we've just stayed connecting with those moms. At first it was through word of mouth. It still is, but now
Mhm.
we're seeing them on Instagram. Now we're seeing them on TikTok. Now we're seeing like you go where your market is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I actually, as you were telling that story, I can remember when my mother went into an assisted living facility. Yeah, I definitely remember labeling her clothes, labeling things just like she did for me when she sent me
I
off to
know, but a
summer
lot of
camp.
the senior
Mhm.
stuff the quality isn't very good. So that's why we want to make sure that,
Mhm.
they're going to stay on and bring that peace of mind to our, the seniors in our lives.
Mhm, mhm. So I want to go back for a minute and just kind of put yourself in the place of, say, a mom who's listening. She's got a
Okay.
business idea, but she just can't see past the diapers, maybe school drop-offs, and maybe working as you all did when you started off. How did you and when did you practically carve out the time and the mental space to grow the company? Why? I mean,
Hey,
in
it's
your
a great
place, you had six
question.
kids. What does
Yeah.
that look like?
Oh
And
gosh, yeah. It's a great question because you really do. I do find people tend to romanticize entrepreneurship, right? And they think it's going to be all TED Talks and book deals and such, but it really looks like making labels in a basement till 2 a.m. when you're pregnant with your fourth child, and then getting up with the kids at 6 and doing the day. And there's no putting them to bed at 7 o'clock and then grabbing a glass of wine and watching some Netflix. It was like I couldn't even lie down with my kids because I didn't want to risk falling asleep and losing those hours of work that I had ahead of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have a little bit of an appetite for risk. You gotta, if you have, I think having co-founders was really helpful because,
Mm.
like, from a social, we had each other there to cheer each other on. Solo entrepreneurship, especially in those days, could be very lonely. So having
Yeah.
that was
And
great. As
especially if you were on the same page, that's the key. You
that is
have to
exactly the
really
key.
be on, marching to the same drumbeat
You got to
about what the
match each
business
other's
is
hustle,
about.
right? You got to
Yeah,
match my hustle because
that's
you can't
true.
have one person who's like, "Oh, I want to do this a little bit on the side," and one person who's
There
like,
you
"We're
go.
this is going to be
That
a
part.
multi-million dollar," right? You've got to be aligned in that way as well. And then you want to also make sure
Hmm.
that you're dividing the labor kind of equally so that nobody feels too put upon. You want to be, so your
That
communication when you
too.
have co-founders has to be very good. But I do think it led to an early, growth for us and being able to divide and conquer and,
Good.
separate the jobs and also
Good.
having four
Yes.
creative brains at the table, right? Sure, it made for
Hmm.
feisty conversations and lots of
Hmm.
debates. We had debate club all the time, but it brought in some really great perspectives. So that was really helpful as well. But for that mom who's feeling a little bit stuck, I think it's fair to ask yourself, do you have the capacity? Do you
Hmm.
have, do you maybe not? That's
Hmm.
okay.
Hmm.
But like let's look at what you're doing. Do a time study. How much of your days, how much are you willing to give up? And also keep in mind, again, back to the romanticizing, like you will be giving up things like you might not be able to buy that new car. You might not be able to go on that family holiday. These are things that we actually gave up. Like there are
Right.
sacrifices that happen, right?
Hmm.
And because you're giving up a salary, you're giving up time. There's a lot of sweat equity. So, for that mom, I would say keep the idea going.
Hmm.
Think about your capacity and use your network. Talk to other entrepreneurs. Listen to Carol's podcast. Join like a little incubator group. Get online when the kids are in bed. Do your research. Listen to podcasts because women are excellent connectors. And there's
Hmm.
somebody out there who's going to make it easier for you if you ask the right questions. So don't be afraid to ask questions. I always say no's are free. You can say, Julie, can I pick your brain? Can I take you for a coffee? What's the worst that can happen? I say no. You're
Right.
no worse a space. So, ask the questions, put yourself out there and,
Hmm.
see what happens.
Mhm, mhm. Wow. Now, I wonder how were you able to, between taking care of the children, all of you, all of the
Mhm.
co-founders, and building the business, how did you carve out time just to take care of yourself? What are some examples of things you did?
Okay. I'm going to be really frank here, Carol. It didn't happen. Like the
Okay.
others, maybe, but I will tell you, if you like me time, like, and I mean, if you want to like go get your nails done, that
Mhm.
great. You got to do that. If you need to go to the gym, if you need to go to a read a magazine or school your phone at a coffee shop, great. But I would say do not have six children and start a business. Like it's
Mhm.
just not going to happen. So that's maybe why you have two kids or maybe why you have six kids, but don't start a business. Like I think, my idea of me time was very different. So for me, I was quite like work to me was me time. Me
Yeah.
watching my kid play ice hockey and not having to bring a toddler along and chase them around and just being able to focus on the ice hockey was me time. So,
Mhm.
everybody's got different, and don't let other people define what your needs are, right? Like
Yes.
my me time looked different to other people's me time. It doesn't mean I'm going to burn out. It doesn't mean my life isn't fulfilling. It doesn't mean that I don't
Mhm.
have it all. We all have to define our own having it all. But if like traditional self care, is very important to your mental health, you need to make sure you get it. And
Mhm.
so if that means getting help, asking for help, if that's saying, no, I can't volunteer at the nursery school, if that means, yes, I will host Christmas, but everybody else has to bring a dish, it's putting boundaries, it's
There you
saying
go.
no, understanding your capacity, and just leaning into it. And I will tell you, Carol, I had no problem doing that. Like if
Good.
somebody I'd have a baby and somebody would say, "Oh, can I drop off a little present?" I'm like, "I don't need a present, but could you take the toddler to the park tomorrow afternoon?" I had no problem saying what my needs are. I'm like, no, I don't need anything fancy. Just drop off a crock pot meal. Like these are the things I need. Or if somebody did give me a present, I would say, thank you. Look me in the eye because I'm saying thank you now. You're not getting a thank you card. I don't have the capacity, but thank you. I appreciate this. And I
Right.
was just shameless about it and felt no guilt about it. And that's very freeing. And that actually leaves you space and mental energy to be productive in other areas that are more important in my books.
Right, right. Man, I could have used that courage and at that time. Now, of course, I developed it, but at that time when they were really younger, yeah, I wish because so many people had their ideas about
I
what
know.
I needed, how
I
they could
know.
help, and
And
all of
really,
that.
we
And
can we
it's
can just own that and say, look, this is what I need right now. If you
yes.
want to help, this is how you can help me. And like we just have to advocate for ourselves and not
Mm-hmm.
worry too much about what other people think about that, right? So
Yeah.
it does take courage. I think, it is something that we gain as we get older, and we need
Mm-hmm.
to remind like the young people that they can set these boundaries and they know what's right for their family, they know what's right for them, and to go with it. And also just to lower your standards a bit. Like,
Yes.
this guilt thing, I always joke about that. I gave up mom guilt 5 kids ago because you know what? You bring home a new baby, or it's busy at Mabel's Labels in August because we're getting all the back to school labels out. So what? The kids are getting hot dogs 2 nights in a row. Do I beat myself up? No. That's just how it is. That's a
Right.
busy time of year. It's not forever. You just have a new baby. The toddler's watching too much Miss Rachel. Oh, well, it's not going to be forever. You're not in your best space. It's okay. Things will get better. But
Right.
don't beat yourself up because you're having a rough time now,
Mm-hmm.
like it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. The kids are all right. The business is all right. We're all going to be okay. Don't
Yeah.
catastrophize things like,
Right.
and my thing is like, I really pick the hills I'm going to die on, and there aren't that many.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. No, I hear you. Chewy makes caring for pets easy with fast delivery, top quality Chewy brand products, and truly outstanding customer service. The site is packed with everything pet lovers need, from food to toys to everyday essentials, all at great prices. Friends and family always tell me how simple Chewy makes their lives, from quick shipping to friendly support. If you're shopping for your favorite animals, Chewy's got you covered every step of the way. I'm wondering too, like, how did you handle like division of labor, like getting people at home to help? Your
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think when you have a bigger family, it's a little bit easier in a way because you just can't do it all. And I know I've got like friends who have singletons and they're like, oh, I have to try so hard not to just do things for him because it's easier for me to just put on his shoes and get him out the door.
mm-hmm.
And, we know that that short term easy ends up being long term hard because then you do stuff for them for too long. So, I think with so many kids, it was like you just have to train for independence, right? In those early days,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, and everybody had Crocs because in the summer I can't put shoes on everybody. It's like slip your Crocs on, and this sibling can help that guy with his little shoes or whatever. Like we're a team, and I think we just, I never took chores to be like this big drag of a thing. It's like, this is just stuff has to get done, right?
Right.
So we have to get things done. Like people don't get paid to do chores. Like I don't get paid, so they don't get paid. And it's just like part of being a part of the community. And it's a family community and everybody has responsibilities. And to make it work,
Yeah,
we work together.
family is the first community,
It
and
sure
it's all
is.
about keeping the house you're helping keep the house running.
Yeah, and I
So,
think there is a tendency for, parents to do too much for their kids. And I
oh,
really am of the philosophy, don't do for a child what a child can do for himself, right? Like
absolutely.
it's important. It's life lessons. Now that I have 5 kids in college right now, like it's amazing the things that I don't get calls for, that my friends get calls for.
Yes.
But it does depend on your child as well, right? Because everybody's
Mm-hmm.
got different executive functioning skill levels or different, things, different learning profiles for sure. And of course, you take all that into account because they're all different.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the sooner you can get kids doing things independently, and I say no a lot. Like my kids are I'm a big natural consequence guy. And I
Mm-hmm.
talk about it in my book. Like if if they forget their lunch, I'm not going to run it to the school. Like I'm not going to drop off
We
Jim
would have been
Crow's.
friends.
Yeah,
We would have been
yeah.
friends.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I mean, so what? They go hungry for a day. Nobody in my house has had scurvy yet. Like, and then they only forget it the once. And I'll help them put up systems in place. Like, I would put like
Yes.
a chart, be like, well, check your chart. Have you done everything this morning before school? Great. You're not going to forget anything. I'll help them set that up, but I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
put their lunch in their backpack. I'm not going to tidy up their homework and make sure they bring it. Like, if they forget it, then they skip recess and do it again. I'm okay with natural consequences, and it's not punishment. It's just that's life.
That right.
Just how it
Exactly.
goes. You don't want to wear your
Exactly.
winter coat? Be cold.
Yes. Yep.
I'm okay. I'm
I've
warm.
done that too.
Yeah.
I have done that as well. And
Yeah.
yeah, we definitely would have been buddies
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Well, when you
I
have two of them, you can't do everything.
well, it was really just also just my philosophy.
Philosophy.
I just
Yeah.
felt like my goodness. I mean, they have to really develop that independence and also learning to speak up for themselves, the
Self
self-advocacy.
advocacy. And
So
from a
it's important.
like for you, like for us, like from a productivity standpoint, like could I build a label empire if I was dropping off forgotten school lunches to 6 children every day? Absolutely not.
Hmm.
So they needed to be able to respect that I had to get certain things done and I had to be highly productive and they had to have a role in that. Like
Right.
everybody, plays their part and that's okay.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned your book, so let's talk about that. It's called Like a Mother: Birthing Businesses, Babies, and a Life Beyond Labels. So, talk about that, and what
Yeah.
prompted you to write that?
So, it was really kind of on my list of things I wanted to get done because I really wanted to share the things I've learned. If I can make anybody's journey a little bit easier,
Hmm.
I wanted to do that. So the book is really full of kind of my life learnings, my business learnings, my parenting learnings, like all of that fun stuff. And it's fun. It's an easy
Hmm.
read, but it's got some really good gems in there. And what really prompted me to write it when I did was that COVID happened, right?
Hmm.
And at that point, we're not going to conferences. I'm not speaking at events. I'm home all the time. Like, I had 2 kids in college who got sent home. The kids are all home. And I was like, I'm not going anywhere. If I don't get this book done now, when am I going to have this opportunity again? And it's like, I was like a lot of women who even started side hustles during, lockdowns and that sort of
Hmm.
thing. We saw a real bit of growth in women founded businesses during that time. So in a way, it was like my COVID project. So it worked out.
Yeah.
The timing for me worked out well. I wasn't traveling. So, hey, they're
Same
all at their
here.
desks and I'll sit at my desk and write as well.
That's when I
Is
worked
it?
on my book too, because it
Yes.
was something that, like you said, I had talked about it for years. I want
Yeah.
to write a book, and then I found myself home alone
Yep.
because my husband was working long term in another
Right.
state. The boys were in college. I was home with my golden doodle,
There you
and
go.
so I
Best company in your family, I'd say.
oh my goodness, she was such a delight. Such a
Oh,
delight.
did you
S-
lose her? Or do you still have her?
We did lose her last
Oh,
October, not
ouch.
most recently, but yeah,
Oh,
it's been, a
yeah.
little over a year. Yep, she was 14
Yeah.
years old, and I
Okay.
always say she's probably one of the best parenting decisions I ever made because it
Interesting.
was it was a great opportunity. Our children were 9 years old at that
Yeah.
point, and they were completely in charge
Responsible.
of the
Yeah.
process in terms of finding the dog. They had to do their research and which breed they could have because I had allergies, all of that.
Mine were the same.
So
My kids put together whenever they wanted something or, they had to pitch us. So they put
okay.
together a PowerPoint, the 6 of them. The youngest was 4. So at that point I was like, oh, this is a good age. Because if this dog lives to like 14, 15, he'll be going off to the last baby will be going off to college. We'll be a 1 dog family.
Right.
And,
Oh, okay.
it's worked out perfectly because that baby's 16 now and the dog is 12. And yeah, so same thing. They pitched it. They did a walking schedule. They said how they were going to afford it. So we went
Mhm.
halves. We paid for half. They paid for half. Blah, blah. It was hilarious. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
We
was
are
good.
definitely on the same wavelength, girl.
And it just helped them to be
Yep.
responsible and for someone other than themselves,
Mhm.
and be considerate and all that. So, and then of course, I just fell in love with her because I wouldn't say I was anti-dog before, but they were okay. They were okay.
Well, and you
But
probably
she
thought
really
like,
changed it. She
"Oh,
really changed as soon as we
I
picked
never
her
had a
up.
dog. I had never had a dog before, so I didn't even know when people said their dogs died, I was like, "Oh, that's too
Oh
bad."
my
I didn't even
goodness,
know.
Julie.
Same?
Yes, I was the same way. I was
Yeah.
like, what
Why are you
is going on?
crying? I know.
Yes,
I was
I'm ashamed to say,
same. I've
yes.
gone back and apologized to people because I'm like,
Yes.
"I'm sorry I didn't react." Like, I had this one set of friends, they had no children and their dogs were and I ran into them and they said their dog died and one of them started crying. I'm like, "Guys, like, sorry, but come on." And then I was like, "Oh, I was evil."
I mean, it didn't even take me long. I didn't even have her very long, and I already,
Yeah.
whenever anybody else mentioned that their dog died after that, I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
can't imagine my life without her. I
I
can't.
know, I know. It changed
And
you when you
she was
had
just a
it
little
before.
puppy. She was just a little
Yeah.
puppy at that point. So,
I gotta say, the other thing I did like about it, I do love about having Ozzy too, is that I feel like it's something that the kids have a shared love for. Like they talk about this dog together, like they share pictures of this dog. I mean, a lot of them are at college now, but it is like the kids were at home will like if he looks cute, they'll put a cowboy hat on the dog and then send it to the fam jam group, and they're all like, "Oh my God, Ozzy's the best!" And like it's a shared
mhm.
love. It's very cute. Yep.
Yeah, between
Yep.
that and the trampoline in the
Oh
backyard,
yeah, I got one of
my
those too. Yeah, yeah.
goodness, those were
The pool
top
was
tier.
another thing. I say the two things I didn't want and the two things I didn't want and I'm glad I got, the pool and the dog.
Mhm.
Kept
Yeah.
them busy and in there all summer, and, like, during COVID, they were in the pool all the time, and there were 6 of them, so they had, like, their little swimming community.
Mhm. Yes. So now as we were talking a little bit before we started this interview, you're like really a go-to voice on entrepreneurship and parenting and just women's leadership. And so when you look at the pressures that moms feel to be perfect and impressive at work, what conversations do you think we still are not having honestly enough about
Yeah.
parenting and
Well,
motherhood in particular?
yeah, I think sort of a big one is that, mothers really are carrying the load still at home, and that makes it very hard for us to succeed at work. And we know this because we
Mhm.
have these stats that show us like what women make on the dollar, what our trajectory is for getting raises and promotions and that sort of thing, and it lags very much. So I think first of all, having workplaces that were more accommodating to families would be fantastic.
Mhm.
I think we learned in COVID that that workers can be very productive in
Mhm.
non-traditional spaces. And now,
Yes.
all these big banks saying everybody's got to come back to the
That's
office for 5 days a week. And I'm like, you're just basically saying, we're going to make you commute now for 2 hours a week so that you can't go to the gym, so you can't have dinner with your family. So all the balance you found, now we're going to make you go on a
and it's
train for
such
that
a
time.
slap in the face
Slap.
because they really rose to the
Yep.
occasion when
And
they
then it's
needed
like we're taking
them.
it back. And it's, yep.
Yes.
So that's brutal. I think that is not family friendly, particularly to women are mostly
Mhm.
impacted by that. I think, families need to be having these conversations. Like if you're having a baby, if you have a partner, you need to be talking about and open conversations about what your roles are and when you need help. And like a lot of women also, it's the decision fatigue. Like we're making all the decisions. Like you can even be like, what am I making for dinner? Or like, and even if you're getting help, sometimes you're doing the hard work too. I remember a friend always having to say to her husband, "Can you just put the bottles in the sanitize the bottles, the baby bottles or whatever?"
Mhm.
And he was
Mhm.
quite happy to do it, but she's just like, "I just don't want to have to ask him. Like, why can't he just see what needs to be done?" Like, I just
Mm.
don't want to be asking all the time because I still feel like that I'm carrying it, that it's still my responsibility.
Mhm.
I want to be able to say, go buy a birthday present without having to send the exact Lego set of what they need. Why do I make all the dentist appointments? So there's this invisible load of parenthood, both physical
Mhm.
and mental and emotional that mothers are carrying. We're the ones making sure everybody's okay. We're making sure everybody's happy, and that's all on us. And that's exhausting. And that
Mhm.
impacts us professionally. So we need to be having these open conversations with our families and talking
Mhm.
about capacity. And again, I think, another big conversation I think is starting to happen is around boundaries, like what
Yes.
like maybe my mother-in-law can't come in here and whenever she wants and do whatever she wants. And like maybe that's a conversation that has to happen, or maybe there are ways, and that takes skill, and that might take some coaching, it might take some therapy, it might take talking to some girlfriends, doing some reading. But I think we need to start making sure that we are minding our capacity so that we save our energy for where
Mm-hmm.
it's most needed, most productive, and most fulfilling.
Right, right. And as I talked about earlier on, like the very beginning, I definitely could have used that. But you know what? After my son's diagnosis, I like really had I don't want to say I had a target or I had something. And so then that was I achieved a level of autonomy there and
Yeah.
turn and courage to set the boundaries because I'm doing this and nothing's getting in the way of him being ready for kindergarten. Like that was the first, target, first
Yeah,
big
it's like
target.
honestly, like when your
So
child gets a diagnosis, it's a little bit like
that's
mama bear on steroids. Like
yeah.
everybody in my family got trained in ABA. Everybody had required reading. Everybody had to know what was on Max program, what had been moved to maintenance. Like we had team meetings that involved grandparents, aunts and uncles, like
Hmm.
everyone. I'm like, you're on, and I was like, I'll be that bossy mom because like everybody's got to be on board here if we're gonna
Hmm.
like get the best out of this little guy. And
Hmm.
like you, I want to, I'm like, I want him out of my house one day. I love my children, but I do one day want to be an empty nester, so let's do all the stuff now so one day he is.
Yeah, yeah. And then the thing for me too was despite the label, my thing was always I don't know what it's going to look like, what his future is going to look like.
Yep,
This is then. I mean, little did I know he'd go to college, graduate
I
college
know.
on 4 years and work and have his own place. But at the time, I was like, whatever his capacity, his full potential looks like, I want him there. I
Yes,
want him
whatever that is.
working
Exactly.
on the edge of his
Exactly.
talents, whatever it
Because you know
is.
what? And I see this in the
Yes.
community too, because they'll be like, well, if you accept your child with autism, I'm like, oh, I accept him. But
Yes.
whatever he can do, he's going to get to, like you say, the very, like, and it's very risky when people say, just accept them, and it's like, well, then when you say that, I'm like, you're risking people's funding. And, I've got friends with kids with autism who, are hitting their head against a wall all the time. I don't accept that. That, like, we got to do better. We got to provide programming and stuff. So I mean, it is funny though when it goes to the parenting thing, like you're just on a mission then, and you're like your priorities totally shift, and
Yes.
you actually literally, it's like you hit menopause really early because you just have zero F's to give.
Yes, yeah, and hey, and and now I have none to give.
Oh yeah, baby,
I
I'm there.
definitely have
I'm
none
there,
to give.
baby, and
I'm
we
like,
really have none
no,
to give.
I can't go there.
No,
No, I
I don't
don't.
want to.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, exactly. I
and
love it.
I don't have any other reason than that.
And
I
it's
don't want
enough.
to. I'm not. It's not that I'm not feeling well.
Yeah.
It's just I don't want to do it.
Yeah, you don't
So
even have to make excuses. You can just be like, no, thank you.
yes. So looking back, what would you say that you're most proud of? And it's not in terms of how much money you made or awards you've given have received, but just thinking about your children, the people that you have brought into this world and are sending off
Yeah.
to change the world. What would you say?
Yeah, I think there's a few things, and it is all about the people, right? Like, so for my kids, I'm really glad that they saw a mom who could be passionate in the home and passionate about her work as
Mm-hmm.
well,
Mm-hmm.
and that, they saw how important it was to me, and they saw me have goals, and they saw me
Mm-hmm.
accomplish those goals, and I think that's good role modeling. And I think
Yes.
they have brought some of the skills that they witnessed. I always say this parenting gig, it's all role modeling, man. If you want a whiny kid, whine. If you want a kid who's going to be a go-getter, be a go-getter. Like, model the behavior you want to see in your kids. So I think there is a lot of good stuff there. I'm really proud of my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that I'm really proud of is the community that we build here at Mabel's Labels. Like our team here, we have 50 full-time employees.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a jam. Like everybody's awesome. We hire great people. We have a great culture. And the other thing too about that is like, I'm really proud that we're providing jobs for people and that,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
people can provide for their family because of what we've created. And I think that it's
Mm-hmm.
very special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And when you were talking about the role modeling and what kids see, sometimes when you're in the thick of it, you don't think because I remember there were some days that I was like, My children, I don't even think they appreciate that I stayed home, that I had a career. They don't know who I was. I would say that.
Yeah,
And then there have been some moments where they say things, and it's like, oh wow,
there it
because
is.
yeah, because
Yeah.
my Mother's Day card, I think it was last year, and my son and his girlfriend gave me a card, and he said in there how much he is enjoying seeing me just loving life and
Oh,
go and just going after my goals and just the joy that he sees in me. And I was
oh,
like,
they're
wow.
watching. They're
I
always
was
watching, you know?
I was like, I was so surprised. My
Yeah.
goodness.
I know
So,
sometimes we feel a little bit invisible, right, with them because they're all like, they're kind of thinking about themselves or wrapped up in their own lives, especially at that age. But they're always keeping an eye on mama.
yeah. So, if you could give one thing that a mom who's listening today, she has some ideas about something she'd like to do,
Mhm.
loves being a mom, that's not an issue, but something that she'd like to do to really recapture who she is. What's something she could do today after she finishes listening to this episode?
Yeah, I think that I really am a firm believer in connection and community. And, if there's something, whether it's a business, whether it's, just getting to a hot yoga once in a while, whatever it is that you want to do, I think there's a community out there who feels the same way.
Mm,
So, make sure you find your people and let the right people into your life. And, when you're talking earlier about the pressure of moms today, I do think about social media, and I think you need to make sure that young moms, if you want to do things and get things done, Babe Ruth said the loudest boos come from the cheapest seats. So don't
yes.
let those cheap seated people in your life. If
Ooh,
you're scrolling on Instagram and somebody posts content that makes you feel like you're not enough or you're not a good mom, there's a block button there or an unfollow there for a reason. So make sure you curate your feed to a healthy one that makes you feel good
mhm.
about yourself and motivates you and inspires you, and get rid of any of the darkness
Good
because you want to
point.
make sure, you're surrounding yourself with people who are on your team and who clap when you're winning.
Yes, I like that. I like that. I hope you all caught that. So tell us how we can follow you and just
You
stay in
bet.
touch with Mabel's
Stay in
labels.
touch with us. Okay, so of course, I need you all to go check mabelslabels.com to see our incredible range of products. We
Mhm.
have, so much over the years, gosh, 22 years. And yeah, and we're doing so many fun things all the time. Follow us on our Insta. If you want to find out about me, you can go to mabelslabels.com/Julie Cole and see kind of my press stuff, order my book. But otherwise, LinkedIn, Instagram, I'm in all the places, and I would love for folks to connect.
Wonderful, wonderful. And as we wrap up, I just want you all to remember this. That Julie didn't wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect work-life balance. She just started where she was with what she had and the people she had around her. And she just built something meaningful, one step at a time. And if today's conversation sparked an idea or gave you permission to release a little bit of that mother load that you've been carrying, take one small action this week. Send the email, sketch the product, delegate a task. Delegate a task. I'm going to say that again.
Yes, louder for the people in the back.
And then come on over and tell us about it in the Parenting 411 community on Facebook, where there are moms like you that are building businesses, they're raising humans, and they're just redefining what success looks like together. And thank you so much for tuning in today. And remember, it's never too late to be the parent you want to be. I can't wait to talk to you again next time. Bye. We bring you this episode for the purpose of information and entertainment only. It is not the intent or purpose of the Parenting 411 podcast or Carol Maletta to provide an exhaustive reference or guide on all aspects of parenting, childcare, and family life. You are strongly encouraged to read all available information, consult medical or other appropriate professionals, and pursue all reasonable means to learn as much as possible about parenting to complement what you gain here, and then tailor the information to meet your individual needs. Yes, parenting is a serious matter, though it is not an exact science. The context and insights offered in this and every episode represent an account of knowledge and personal experiences of the host and any featured guests for the viewers' and listeners' information and consideration. The host and guests do not guarantee to our viewers or listeners any specific parenting outcomes from this episode or taking actions described here.